Welcome back. My name is Bill Donath with the Logan County Genealogical and Historical Society. And today we're going to change up just a little bit on how we present these artifacts from the fire logs. And today we're working on fire log 4. Few of the artifacts are kind of new. Others are things you've seen before, and we're going to try to keep it interesting. And to help along with that idea is we're going to start presenting the history of the things that we find. For example, we're going to give you a little history on the asylum itself, its early history. And we have some newspaper articles and some photographs to go along with that so that you can understand what the institution was and what it was about, so that we can put context with these images of the artifacts that we're going to be showing you. And we hope that it helps you understand a little bit better what the purpose of the institution was intended to be, and we'll hope that you enjoy what you see. Well, welcome back. As I told you, we're going to put some history with this set of artifacts that we got out of Fire Log 3, and it will put some perspective, I think, on the things you're going to see. Now, this is the original building to the institution, the Illinois Asylum for Feeble Minded Children at Lincoln, Illinois. And this photograph came from, or not a photograph, but it's an architectural image of what they anticipated the building would look like, and it did turn out to be like this in 1877. The process, to give you a little history on what happened to make this possible in Lincoln, was a similar facility existed in Jacksonville, Illinois, and it was being overburdened. It had several different prongs to its effectiveness, and one was the Deaf and Dumb Museum or institution, where young people, or anybody actually that had lost their hearing, could go and learn how to live their lives and be able to communicate with others. I know that I've got an extended family that had 2 daughters that lost their hearing due to measles not too long after this, and they attended the institute there in Jacksonville to learn those skills. But this one was intended to educate feeble-minded children, and that's what it was. The original impetus was. Now, the idea of expanding the process for our institutions in the state came up in 1871. Jacksonville had been in progress since 1865. So in 1861, they wanted to separate the two functions, and the feeble-minded children needed to be taken to another location. And the state legislature put together a package, and they talked about it and passed a bill that said this institution needed to be built, and the total cost of the whole thing couldn't be over $185,000. And this was passed in 1873. So they had to find a location for it, and they talked not only to Lincoln but to other cities as well. Let's see if I can find what other cities were here. that they talked to. So they had a board of 7 commissioners that were appointed by the governor, and they had to choose the site. And there were several locations that they were looking at, but the site in Lincoln seemed to be the best. Maybe it was because it was the least expensive. Now they wanted to buy 40 acres of land, and it just happened that Colonel Robert B. Latham of Lincoln had a good-sized piece of land south of what we now know as Postville, and the Colonel sold this land to the state for $7,500. Now, other sites that were considered were Quincy, Jacksonville, Springfield, Decatur, Bloomington, and Princeton, besides Lincoln. So it was something of a success to get it located here. Now, once the site was located and purchased, they needed to have somebody to take charge of it. And the the original superintendent was a doctor, C.T. Wilbur, and he was brought into the grouping of 7 governors, I guess you would call them, and he advised them as to what the buildings needed to best serve the children who were going to be there. Once that was done, and he changed things pretty significantly from their original intent, the bids were let on the buildings, and the bid for $124,775 went to the company owned by T.E. Courtney of Chicago. That purchase, that agreement was made in 1875, and the construction began that year. The contract also had additional amounts for plumbing, gas fittings, and that brought the cost up to $154,209, which was something less than $185,000 the state had budgeted for it. So they started construction. They finished construction in 1877, the initial construction, that is. And then in 1877, they passed an appropriation to add more land, and the land we would know as being between State Street and the railroad, the CNA Railroad, or West Kickapoo Street, is where they located the superintendent's home, was off campus. So they bought that extra ground. They had some fencing they wanted to put in, some walkways to put in, a scale house so that they could weigh the stuff they bought for the school to make sure it was accurate, and furniture. They had to have furniture for all this, and they wanted to put up a barn and a storage barn for the farm, and a cow stable, and coal house. They wanted 15 cows to provide the milk, and had to put in some cisterns to trap water, and boilers, all that sort of extra stuff that makes the business makes the institution work better. So let's take a look at a page from the Lincoln Herald, June 14th, 1877. And here you see the picture you just saw the enlargement of. And the articles, this one is the history of the construction, and this one is the appropriations I just talked about, and this one is an article about the first meeting of the trustees with the general contractor. So we'll go through that a little bit. Let me expand this as much as we can here. It's a bit much. Go back one. And I'll slowly scroll down from the top. And if you're wanting to pause your video and read these articles, you can do that. So we have the Feeble Minded Asylum here, the meetings of the asylum trustees, the university. Of course, Lincoln College was already here, Lincoln University back then. It was a 4-year institution. And they had periodic articles in the paper. And here we have court stuff, and we have some ads over here, and we have some interesting little tidbits over here. And then the times for the railroads up here were always there. So I'll move on up here. Now let's do it this way. And we have more of those same articles. There's a Sunday school convention that had happened. And we have some more court cases here, the people's cases. Here's some livestock sales, new buildings around town. There was a big building boom going on downtown Lincoln at this same time. The Daner Block was built about this time. A lot of the stores around the square were replacing elevators that were around the courthouse. And then more advertising over here on the far columns. And we get down here and you see a list of letters. These are the letters that had not yet been picked up at the time the paper was printed. And it listed the names of the people who the letters were for. And you've heard me talk about A.D. Cadwallader being our postmaster. There he is. He's listed right there. Okay, then we have marriages and deaths listed here as well. Sometimes we have a list of births, but not in this particular one. It's June, so there are closings of the public schools and Board of Education meeting. You know, all this stuff was put in the paper. Remember, this is a weekly paper, so they had plenty of stuff to put in on. They printed these on a Thursday, and they were put out on Friday. So let's let you have the bottom up there for a little bit. But that's what a typical page of the Lincoln Herald looks like. And this one came out of the shoe collection. We've been talking about the shoe collection from time to time. This is an image of an actual paper page of the paper that we received in that collection. And it's not off of microfilm or anything like that. This is an actual newspaper page. This is an 1897 copy of the Charitable Observer. Remember, I've talked about the Charitable Observer. We've been doing this, unrolling all these things that become our artifacts, and all of the information would go into one of these. Now, let me see. There's that same image for the institution. And if we get up here at the top, We have published in the interest of the Feeble Minded Children of the state of Illinois, Lincoln, Illinois, June 1897, and this is volume 4. So if this is volume 4, that means this Charitable Observer started getting printed in 1893. So that was about 16 years after the institution was set up and finished. It said it was monthly, and this said number 8, so this would have been August, but this says June, so that's a conflict there. Unless the year for the publication of this thing was not January to December, it could be March to whatever. So March to February, I guess. So just a little investigative thing there. But this shows us what all these artifacts would have become once they were processed. And this, we'll see it on the other side. Now this is just a two-sided sheet of paper, but it has quite a bit of information. We have information concerning Illinois Asylum and Feeble Minded Children and method of admission. So this is how children were selected to attend. Cream of events is visitors, who's been visiting. A surprise, somebody had a celebration of some sort. Dr. W.H.C. Smith. They had medical doctors on campus all the time to work with these kids because they were, subject to illnesses sometimes more readily than regular kids. Manners of great men, the kinds of things to encourage people to be better people. And we go down here, see if there's any more titles in here. The institution school to close June 30th. They did close for the summer, and the children went home for the summer. So, and we'll see in the artifacts here the call for them to come back to school for whatever year the artifacts are for, which is undetermined, but we know it's around 1900. And let's go to the next one here. Okay, this one, you can see the pictures of the 3 trustees at the time in 1897. And Giddings, up here at the top, the president, was on for a long time. This one is, I can make it bigger so I can read it maybe, huh? That's Samuel Smiley. And Samuel was, and it probably, it does tell us over here at the side where these guys come from. And let's get it bigger and bigger. There we go. There we go. So let's take a look at this. The superintendent at the time was W.L. Athon, doctor, and published at the Asylum, Lincoln, Illinois, issued every month. Subscription in advance per year. Single copy is 5 cents. The whole year is 60 cents. And then officers of the asylum, the board of trustees. Clarence Giddings is a trustee. Z.K. Wood, Samuel M.C. Smiley, and we have a Clarence, that's still Clarence Giddings. And H.C. Quisenberry is the treasurer. So the 4th person would be a treasurer, but he'd be a non-voting member of the trustees. So the superintendent, assistant superintendent is J.R. Barnett, doctor. And matrons, Mary L. Rohrig and Mary A. Toomey. And the assistant matron was Mary Houlihan. And the teachers are listed here, and we'll see a list of teachers for the newest of these charitable observers. And we have storekeepers and assistant storekeepers, supervisors, and the farmer that manages the farm and instructs the boys that went out to work on the farm. This is Jacob Wilmert. But somewhere I saw where they were from. I think Wood was from Mount Pulaski, if I remember right. And I think this fellow was from a different part of the state, and so was the Giddings. And Giddings had been around for quite a while. Okay, so we have different articles coming into these, and I run across them quite often, where they're trying out new things, and you'll see some of that in today's artifacts. They're testing out some of the newest ideas, and this is a long article. It's all one article on this page about the feeble-minded children. So let's go to the top here and do the same thing we did for the front. Let that hold for a little bit in case you want to pause and read anything about this. And then we'll move it down about there. Pause again for a little bit. Okay, let's go down a little bit more. Pause there for a little bit. And going down to the bottom. So now you can run through that with your own pauses. So, what kind of artifacts are we getting at? Oh, here's where those guys are from. Giddings is from Terre Haute, Illinois. I know there's a Terre Haute, Indiana, down on the border. So he must be from the west side of the border. And at this time, George Corwin was in here instead of Wood, and he's from Lincoln. And that means Wood was from Mount Pulaski. And the S.E. Smiley's still on, so he's from O'Fallon, Illinois. Dr. Athon is the superintendent, and that is William L. Athon. And this is a letterhead. And here's an article about to the parents about the school opening. And this is in Athon's handwriting. And he gives this to the editor at the Herald, and they would transcribe it to print, and it would come out like this. So this is the notice for parents and guardians. So let's get that up here where we can read it a little bit better. Okay, notice to parents and guardians. September 1st has been determined upon as the day for the return of the Chicago children and of those living along the line of the CNA Railroad between Chicago and Lincoln. A special car will be provided by the company and attached to the train, leaving the Union Depot at or near 3 o'clock p.m. Saturday, September 1st, 1900. So, we know the year that this one came out. Persons in charge of the children will furnish them with tickets and see that the baggage is properly checked. Each ticket and check should be placed in an unsealed envelope on which is plainly written the name of the child. It will be better and confusion be avoided if those in charge conduct the children to the door of the car before placing them into charge of the institution officials. retaining the tickets and the baggage checks until they reach the car. Dr. Barnett, Assistant Superintendent, and his assistants will be at the Union Depot at 1:00 p.m. Saturday, September 1st, 1900 to receive and take charge of the children. Parents and guardians will take due notice and govern themselves accordingly. W.L. Athon, Superintendent. So that's how they got the children back to the school. Now this one is a list of teachers that are going to be working there in the fall of 1900. So let's take a look at these, and we have Mary Ward of Lincoln, Maddie Corwin of Lincoln, Ellie Burke of Casey, Illinois, Cora Peasley of La Harpe, Illinois, Lois Turner of Atlanta, Maud Duff of Lincoln, Barbara Cladd of Lincoln, Grace Burton of Lincoln, Corrine Fuchs, Lincoln, Ella Kraft, Belleville, Illinois, and Mary Scott of Lincoln. So those are the 11 teachers that will be listed in the next Charitable Observer. Okay. And this is the article talking about the teachers and some extra information, but it doesn't tell us where the teachers come from. That list that we found in this scroll did do that for us and told us where they were coming from. So they listed teachers there in one small paragraph, and Superintendent and the Board of Trustees have conserved the interest of the institution and the children committed to their care in the above selection. So they're thinking that these are the best teachers they could find to place in charge of the children. The calisthenic teacher, we know is a PE teacher, has not been selected, but seems to me, I read somewhere that they had like 50 applicants for that position. So I'm sure they found somebody that was desirable there. Okay, it's another letterhead, and this is the older letterhead. This still has wood on it, and you can see he's from Mount Pulaski. And they're apparently changing from the script letterhead to the block print letterhead. So here's the block print one again. And this one actually has a line for a date over here. So you can see they're starting into the 1900s. And this is a daily sick report. There it says so right there. So every day anybody that was sick, the name was listed on this list. And these were left over from the 1880s. Excuse me. And used as scrap paper in writing little articles like this. I don't know what this form was for. This is the first time I've seen it. Whether it's a ticket of some sort when things were brought into the asylum or what. I don't know how it was used. I haven't seen one filled out. And these are visitors to the asylum on 4th of July. They had a very nice program. Every major holiday, while the students were still there, well actually June 30th was the last day for the students, so they had this for the city, I guess, to come out and enjoy the 4th of July at the grounds of the asylum. But there's that same list of visitors. And they had a big program, and they had a lot of music. Just before the fireworks display, they had this concert with all these songs, and you're the authors of the songs. And here's the description of the 4th and the activities that went on. Here's that list of music down here. But it's the article that would show up in the next Charitable Observer. This one is notes from the farm superintendent, J.J. Wilmert, and pretty mundane stuff, common stuff. They're starting to pick tomatoes and all that sort of stuff, and bringing stuff in to be canned. Yeah, except there's one interesting thing down here at the bottom. Let's make that a little larger so we can read it. I didn't see a printed version of this. Unfortunately, Mr. Wilmert has good handwriting. It says, Mr. F.E. Murphy was severely hurt one day this week by being thrown. And we got to go to the next page to find out the rest of that story. By being thrown out of a wagon in Lincoln. He was quite disfigured, aside from having his wrists badly sprained. So one of their adult helpers got hurt being thrown out of a wagon. Could have been a runaway. There were a lot of those listed in the papers where the horses just got spooked and would run off. And it's amazing that a lot of people weren't killed in those days with these accidents with horses. Judge R. W. Hilscher of Watseka was on the farm, and I know that Mrs. Wilmert had invited somebody, and I can't tell you which one of these people, whether it's Gilchrist or the Gallaghers or the Morrisons, but somebody she had invited to come for a weekend. So those were the visitors to the farm. Okay, this one, make it a little bigger. It says Industrial Education for the Feeble-Minded. And this is one of the things that they worked on, is helping these young people learn skills that they could use after they were no longer coming to the asylum. Industrial skills. I can remember even when it was still open, and they had an area there where they dipped antique furniture to take the old varnishes off. I took a couple chairs out there one time and had that done to them so that I could refinish them. So here they're talking about, and this came out of the Journal of Psychoaesthetics. Okay. And this one is an announcement of the death of Superintendent Athon's father. And it's an obituary. When I first saw it, I thought, well, I wonder if that was him, because they had the same name. But you can see this, and they say it's his father here, and he was born in 1839. Okay, and then a little obituary on, or information on the family. So I think that's the end. Yeah, that's the end of it. So those are the main artifacts that I could get out of this particular issue of the newsletter for the asylum. So there we go. I made it a little shorter than usual, probably, I hope, but more informative. Been showing you these things without tying them to anything that you know about. So it's more interesting when we know a little history. So I'll try doing that more as we go through these other roles. But that's enough for now, and we'll talk to you again later.